an excuse. We're after all, I'm the king, and so like you don't treat a king that way. That is offensive. Have you ever told a devotee, Prabhu, what you said, that was offensive? Well, elevated devotees don't generally say such things. You've offended me. They don't see it like that. And so if you follow the thinking of Parikshit Maharaj, his thinking was very, very interesting. Because after he committed that offense, he was thinking, I deserve to suffer. I have made this offense. I deserve to suffer. Now, most of us don't think like that. We think, I made an offense. I hope I don't suffer. Isn't it? I know I made an offense. Krishna, please. I know it's a big offense. Don't make me suffer. And Mahārāja Parīkṣit is thinking the opposite. I made an offense. I should suffer. And he wasn't coming out to the community and to the citizens and people saying, well, I made the offense, but it really wasn't that bad. And actually the Rishi deserved it. He was just admitting, I made this mistake. He wasn't covering it up and he wasn't rationalizing it. And why this is important is because when people make mistakes, generally they often try to hide them or cover them up, or they don't like to admit them, or they try to rationalize, yeah, I made the mistake, but this is the reason. And he didn't do any of that. So I think this is a very important example for us. Like sometimes we make a mistake and the only way anybody finds out is there's some evidence that someone presents and then we have to admit it. But before that, we don't say anything. That's quite common. You know, you finally get caught with your pants down, what can you say? But before that, you just hide it. And Parikshit Maharaj wasn't doing that. He was doing the opposite. So when he heard about the curse, he said something really interesting. Maybe you discussed this in other classes. He said something really interesting. He said, good, I deserve it. Isn't that amazing? He got the curse. You're accursed to die. And he said, good, I deserve it. And then Prabhupada said he did not have to accept the curse. He had the power to counteract the curse, but he didn't. Because he felt like, this is good. I committed an offense and I should suffer for this. Now, there's another interesting point here. He was a king, so he was responsible for people. So he could have thought, okay, I made a mistake, but I shouldn't accept this curse because I'm the king and I'm responsible for the kingdom and I can't just let the people off. It's my duty to them. So sometimes we think like that. Yeah, I made a big mistake, but still I have responsibilities to people. So just leave me alone and let me continue. Yeah, that's okay if it's a small mistake. But if it hits a certain threshold where we're no longer qualified to be in that position, then like Mahārāja Parīkṣit, we shouldn't have any excuses. Well, but people are depending on me and how can I do this and that? He didn't do that. He just said, I deserve it. It's over. I'm accepting this curse. I'm happy to accept this curse. And we're going to now end our life in 7 days. Wow, what an example, isn't it? Isn't that amazing? Like, no excuse, just totally willing to face up to his mistake and accept the consequences. And then it reminds us of that verse in Bhagavatam, Tatenu kampam sushimikshamano, that I see every suffering, every challenge as Krishna's mercy, and I think I deserve it. I actually deserve more. And what we see amongst conditioned souls, we think either we don't deserve any of it or we don't deserve much. You know, it's like, let's say you come to my house and you steal money, but you say, you know, Prabhu, I've been giving you donations like every month for years. So what's the problem that I steal money from you? It's like you're trying to rationalize your mistake with all the good things you did. Sometimes we see that, right? Yeah, I know I did this mistake, but look at all the good things I did. I know I killed this person, but look at all. I'm a heart surgeon. Look at all the people I saved. It's just the fact that I shot one person that I didn't like. But I've saved hundreds of lives. So leave me alone. So that's the human mind. I don't deserve to suffer for what I've done. Leave me alone. I've done many good things. Okay. This is such a beautiful story. He's not doing any of that. He says, no, the right thing to do is that I should step down. I did the wrong thing. I should step down. And he didn't have to go through saying, no, he made a mistake. I made a mistake. I don't deserve. I think he could also feel like I don't deserve to be the king. Even look at this mistake I made. It's good. I deserve to be punished and die. So that was one thought about this verse. The other thing, not the other thing, but the main thing that's being discussed in the purport is the nature of the spiritual world. And the first point Prabhupada makes is, well, if the spiritual world exists and it's eternal, and Parikshit Maharaj is going to be going to the spiritual world, and everyone's going to remain there listening to Katha until he leaves his body, then his death is going to be glorious, and we can celebrate. If one of our devotees left the world, and we knew for certain that moment they left our world, they entered Krishna Lila, that we'd be pretty happy, wouldn't we? I mean, that's a cause of celebration. He went back to Godhead. I mean, and that's the whole point of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada has come here to get us back to Godhead. And so if you go, you fulfilled your promise to Prabhupada. He's fulfilled his obligation to you. It's glorious. Let's have a big celebration. Oh, so-and-so just died. Wow, what fantastic news. That's the best news I've heard all day. We don't take it that way because, as Prabhupada said, even though we should celebrate, it is a glorious event, we are lamenting the separation from that person, that we have lost that person. So there's this like two contradictory emotions going on. And then there maybe is a third emotion going on, that I knew that if you knew the person, that I knew that person, I got the benefit of their association. So I was fortunate, but now I'm bereft of that association. So we have these contradictory emotions, right? So the natural question comes, well, am I happy or am I sorry? Like, which one am I? Like, or which one am I supposed to be? When a devotee leaves and we know he was a good devotee, am I supposed to be happy? Or am I supposed to be sorry? And the answer is yes. Yes. You're supposed to be happy. You're supposed to be sorry because you missed that association. When Mahaprabhu asked Ramananda Roy, he said, what is the greatest pain in the world? What is the greatest suffering? He said, the greatest pain and suffering is separation from the devotee. So therefore, we can say, if we lose a devotee and we don't feel pain, then our heart is like a rock. We should feel pain. But if you don't feel the pain, something's wrong with you, go to the mental hospital, get cured. You should feel pain. At the same time, there's another side, which is like, I lost, but he's gone. It's like if you're Indian, and your son gets a job at Google in Silicon Valley, and I think the starting pay is like $125,000. That's what you'll start at, and you could work up to maybe over 200,000. The mother's happy, but she's sad. Wow, such a good job. You can live such a good life. That's a lot of money. You can live it's not a lot of money, but you can live quite a good life in America on that money. It's not like you're, a multi-millionaire or anything, but you don't spend much. In 10, 15 years, you will be, but you can live quite a nice life. So the mother is like, I'm so happy you got this job, and I'm so unhappy you're leaving India. I'm not going to see you. So it's something like that, mixed emotions. So Prabhupada told us when the spiritual master departs, then we should cry, just like the wives, the husband cry when he leaves. That's normal. At the same time, Prabhupada is saying separation is better than being in the presence of the guru, which is like, that seems to be a contradiction, doesn't it? So you have, that means that there's place for both of these so-called contradictory emotions. There's place for both of them in our heart. It's just a matter of understanding that I can feel happy that this devotee has gone back to Godhead. I can feel happy that I knew him, and I can feel sad that I'm separated from him. Both emotions can exist simultaneously, and that's really what Prabhupada said. Materially, you think either you're happy or you're sad. You're not both. In this case, we can be both, right? Like if you knew for sure that your best friend who just died went back to Godhead, wouldn't you be happy? If you're thinking right now, she's dancing in Ras Leela with Krishna in the eternal spiritual world, and I'm sitting here cleaning my kitchen because I just cooked and laboring away, and she's got it made and I don't, but we're thinking, I wish she were here. And then you think, I wish she were here because I miss her. But if she's here, she's going to have to clean her kitchen also and go to work tomorrow. So it's glorious. But I miss her association, or I miss his association, because it was so, we were so close. So yeah, you can have a place. Both things can exist within your heart. And so the last point Prabhupada's making, it's just about the nature of the spiritual world. And of course, this point is fundamental to our philosophy. It's there in the Gita to see the miseries, be aware of the miseries, understand the miseries, and then Krishna advertising for the spiritual world in the Gita, he describes what it's like. Some of you who are younger probably have never gone to what is called a travel agency, but before the internet, when you wanted to like fly somewhere other than just like, the next city or a local flight, you go to a travel agency and you'd say, I want to go on a vacation. They go, where do you want to go? And say, I'm not sure. And so they show you all these pamphlets. You could go to Spain, you could go to the Caribbean, you could go to the Greek islands, and they'll show you pamphlets and pictures of what you can do. So it's all like marketing materials to try to attract tourists to come. And this is what Krishna is doing in the Gita. He's like, okay, you live in this world, and just in case you haven't noticed, there's birth, old age, disease, and death. You should notice that. So he says that. Jara, there's old age, Jara. What is the shloka? Vyadi dukkha dosha darshan. Janma mritu jara. Vyadi dukkha dosha. You should see that. In case you're not noticing, keep your eye on the wheel. You should see that. But here's a pamphlet, and this is Goloka Vrindavan. So let me show you what goes on there. And so, okay, you'll get one of these bodies like this, and it never gets old. And there's no time, and you don't have to work, and everything you want, you just think of it and you'll get it. The trees will give it to you. The cow's milk will give it to you, on and on and on. So Krishna's doing that in the Gita. In my abode, it's not illumined by sun or moon, and once having gone, you never come back, and et cetera, et cetera. So he's giving marketing. He's doing his travel agency in Bhagavad Gita. It's a travel pamphlet. And so that's what Prabhupada's doing in this purport, just like, hey, Prabhus, just in case you forgot, there is a spiritual world, and it's way better than this world. And you should be thinking about going there. Because you're not going to live forever here, right? You probably forgot, but I'm just reminding you. So that was one of Prabhupada's basic teachings. He would remind us because we forget, and we tend to live our life as if we will live forever. And then Prabhupada would say something which which was difficult for people, many people. He would say, this world is miserable. And you're thinking, miserable? I have a nice house. I have a nice car. I have a nice husband, nice wife, nice bank account. I've got a nice this, I've got a nice that. Miserable? How is it miserable? And Prabhupada would repeat that over and over again. And the best way that I've always understood that is to imagine, just like imagine right now, that you, this past weekend, today is Thursday, this past weekend, you had a all expenses paid vacation to Goloka Vrindavan, and Radha Krishna took you on a tour of everything. So you saw it all. You saw Ras Leela, you saw the Coward Boys, you went to Radharani's home, Krishna's home, you went with Krishna with the cows, you did it all, you saw it all. And after Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, Krishna says, well, I need you to go back where you came from in the material world, and I need you to tell everybody what's going on up here, because they need to hear about it, because they don't know. And now imagine right now, you had just come back from that, and you were talking to people. Would you not be telling them, you do not realize how miserable this life is? Wouldn't you be saying that after having that experience? Of course you would. You'd be like taking them by the neck. That world is full of ananda bliss. It's like ecstatic beyond your, beyond the best kirtan you ever had. Multiply that by 10 million, and that's just an average day there. You have no idea that's how miserable this body is. I had a spiritual body, such a, just going on and on. So that's how we understand when Prabhupada keeps saying, material world's miserable, you're suffering this and that, and we're sitting in our comfortable house with the air conditioning on or the heat on, with our 40-foot screen and our speakers up to the wall and our super chair and listening, and sipping our iced tea and going, everything's great. Or eating our mango or whatever we're doing, and we're going, everything's great. And Prabhupada's like, you idiot, you don't understand anything. This is not great. You're getting old, you're going to die. You've been doing this eternally. You have no idea what great is. So that's how we understand. We put ourselves in Prabhupada's position as one who sees, who has a relation with Krishna, who sees the spiritual world, who therefore by comparison looks at us, and even with your 40-foot screen TV with the best speakers and the most comfortable chair and all your remote controls, he'll say, you're suffering like a dog and you have no idea. So that's kind of what Prabhupada's trying to convey in this program. So, Hare Krishna. That's what I have to say today. And so, if there are any questions, please feel free to speak up.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Thank you so much for speaking, Prabhuji. So beautiful. And
You're welcome.
A wonderful reminder. At least I can say on behalf of every single devotee that by the mercy of Sri Prabhupada and present-day acharyas and senior devotees, every single Hare Krishna devotee understands that this world is a world of miseries. And as such, everybody is trying to be a little best to get out of this place, no matter how fanciful it may appear. So that's the greatest message of Prabhupada has given us.
Yeah. And sometimes difficult to convince us.
Yes,
sometimes. When everything's going well. I just heard a lecture the other day, or I read, and Prabhupada said, even though you're Krishna's devotee, you're in the material world, and the material world means is you're not safe. You're not safe. I had a health problem, like 3 weeks ago. Unfortunately, it wasn't serious. I had a little problem. But if I had that problem in my brain or my heart, I could have had a stroke, or I could have died, just like I was just going to a city to preach, and all of a sudden, boom. So Prabhupada was saying that even though you're devotee, even the Pandavas had to suffer, Kunti had to suffer, even though you're a devotee, it's just the nature of this world that you may not be able to avoid that. Of course, he said, ultimately, Krishna protects his devotee in the long run, but Prabhupada was always, telling us these things because we forget them, or we think it's not going to happen to us, but
Yeah.
but it is what it is.
Sangeeta, please unmute. And if it's Devi, Sangeeta Devi, please.
Hare Krishna, Pancham Pranam Prabhu.
Oh,
Thank you so
Hari
much
Bol.
for Hare Krishna. It was a wonderful lecture. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have a question. Yeah. As you had said that this world is very miserable. So, isn't that so that this world had been made miserable so that we can make an effort to go back to Godhead, right? So the thing is that we understand this part that this world is miserable, and we need to make efforts and everything. But when we encounter that situation, it is kind of very hard, and almost all the time we get defeated. So is there any chance of winning this situations? And if it is, then how can we do that?
Are you saying that we understand it, but when we confront a difficult situation, it's like we react against it? Is that what you're saying? Like how we can deal with it? Is that the question?
I think that was the question, yes.
Yeah.
Sangeeta, you got muted. If you can unmute.
Was
Yes,
that the
yes.
question? Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
my
yes.
question was that can we overcome the difficulty situations?
Yeah.
And if we overcome, then how can we, because I'm staying in a hostel, so it's kind of difficult for me to have a sadhu sangha physically.
Yeah.
But I try most of the time, but most of the time I fail. And
Yeah.
it's just that I just feel like that no matter how much efforts I'm making, but somehow or another I just fail. So I just wanted to seek and help that how can I overcome this and how can I deal with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because this had been repeating for a while, and I made many efforts, but still I failed.
Well, I don't know the details of your situation, because the worst thing for a devotee is to have close association with non-devotees. Generally, we avoid that. And so it sounds like you're surrounded by non-devotees, and that's difficult for you. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's actually one of our principles to avoid close association. It's just, I would say, as far as possible in the future, whatever control you have of your living situation, you should try to live alone if it's possible. Because if you have to live with non-devotees, I can't give you an ideal answer how not to be affected by that, because everyone would be affected by it. So all I could say is that in retrospect, it would have been better to have made a decision, if it were possible, to not have to be so close with non-devotees, because that would resolve the problem more or less. But once you're in that situation, you're in a situation where you compromise your bhakti, then on some other level, you have to increase it more than normal. It's because you have something that's draining you. Okay, so now what can you do on the other side to compensate by having more? Otherwise, it's just drain. You're getting drained. And so should I chant more rounds? Should I read more? Can I do some service? Can I do something that will balance out the negativity? Because the negativity, you can't, it is what it is. And even an advanced devotee would have difficulty in that situation, for sure, not just you. Because we thrive on Sangha. And If I were in that situation, I would definitely try to get as much sangha as I could on the weekends. Like go somewhere where there's a lot of devotees, stay in the temple or something. Do things which would give me the strength to deal with what I have to deal with during the week. I don't know if it's practical or not,
Understood.
but is that at all practical for you?
Sangha is not practical for me because it's kind of not possible for me to go on weekends also, because even though Sundays are off, it's not possible for me. I have
Yeah.
to stay because I'm a medical student, so it's kind of very tough for me.
So then you're going to have to get as much digital sangha as possible. That's, you're just going to, and if you have one close friend, devotee, that you can open up to and talk about your challenges, that's very important. That will be your main association, is somebody who can, say, this is the challenge, this is what I'm going through. And just being able to talk about it, even if that person just listens, is very helpful. So I would recommend that as well.
Yeah.
Think that would help if you have someone you can talk to?
Not really. Like I can talk about the few things, but not the very close ones. I don't have.
So is there anybody you can talk to, open up to, that you know?
Actually, I tried, but it didn't work because I am close to the few peoples, but not to that depth.
You can find someone you're close to, then and you can open up with. It would be very important. Because you don't want to fight this battle alone. That's another problem. Because alone we're going to lose. We're not going to do well alone. We need somebody to go through this together with. So if there's anyone you can think of that you could be more open with, or maybe there's somebody here that you feel comfortable with, but that would help you a lot. You can think about it.
Yeah.
Whatever challenges you're going through, you just told me to be talking about it with someone else. And just doing that's going to help you a lot. That I can guarantee it will help a lot.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the advice. And Sangita, Mataji, we wish you good luck. Definitely Guru and Krishna will intervene. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you so much, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you.
So we go to Radharani Devi, please unmute. Radharani, are you there?
Radharani's there
Okay.
for sure.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry. I think I didn't unmute myself. Yeah. Thank you so much. Please accept my humble obeisances, Mahatma Prabhu. Thank
Is
you
it
for.
possible to turn on your video, Radharani Devi?
Yep. Let me try.
Okay, please. Wonderful. Good.
Yeah. So, yeah, the question I was asking is, Mahārāja Parīkṣit, when he got cursed, he, as you said, he did not. No, he said that I deserve this. I deserve to be punished for this one, but he did not. But he did not dwell on self-pity and self-hatred for a very long time. In fact, he focused on how to deal with the situation now.
Yeah,
But why do
yes.
we people of Kali Yuga, we dwell on this self-hatred and self-pity for a long time, and then we start thinking about what to do next. So what is the difference between such pure devotees and people like
Well, I think there can be different ways of approaching this situation. And one approach to this is that if we objectively and logically analyze a situation we easily come to the conclusion that negativity is always, or generally, is always disempowering and is going to make things more difficult for me. And so, and then secondly, we understand that I do have a choice in the matter of my attitude, although maybe temporarily I will be negative and due to being triggered. But in the long run, I do have a choice of how I'm going to respond to it, and always responding in a way in which the way I think is, what is the response that will produce the result I desire? Because the result I desire is my motivation. And if I'm going to produce a response that prevents me from achieving the result I desire, then I'm my own enemy, that I'm just working against myself. And that doesn't make any sense at all. And if I have the choice to work for myself or against myself, and therefore I can work for myself, then I think, what would be the right attitude in this situation? What would be the mentality, the belief that would then enthuse me, encourage me, guide me, propel me towards where I want to go? Because if I don't do that, I'm not going to get where I'm going to go. And then I'm the only one who's stopping me. Now, if I'm not clear about this, I'll say, no, what's stopping me is this person who said that to me or who did that to me. But that's actually not the person who's doing it, because no, as Bhaktisiddhanta said, no one can harm you unless you allow them. So whatever that person did or said, now you're allowing that to affect you. Whereas if you don't allow it to affect you, it's not going to harm you. Now, as I said before, for most of us, it will affect us, but then we have to ask the question, okay, it's affecting me. What do I want to do about it? How long? Can I do something about this? Naturally, I'm a sensitive person, so I'm affected by it. Do I want to stay affected for the next 20 years? Because as we all know, somebody could say one thing to us which could affect us for the rest of our life, could disempower us in some way, which could cause us to lose faith in ourselves or self-confidence or self-esteem, to doubt ourselves. One thing, right? And so I was studying the mind a lot, and I learned at a certain point that the mind is like a steering wheel. So and I'm the person steering it. So no matter what, what happens and how bad the weather is, I can always steer it the way I want to go. So that's the logical perspective, right? The psychological perspective could be that I have an inclination towards guilt, towards shame. And then you want to understand it and trace it out and see where that conditioning is coming from and see if you can heal it. Because if I have that tendency, like everything's going to make me feel guilty unless what I do is perfect. And even if I do it perfect, I'll go, well, it was perfect, but that was just this time. But the time before it wasn't. And so then I'll feel guilty. So, you can get yourself in this loop where no matter what you do, you'll always feel guilty, even if it's like the highest, most blessed, perfect thing, and everyone's praising you, and you're like, yeah, but I could have done it better. I feel bad. So that's more of a, a samskara or a personality trait or an emotional trait. So then some of us have to go there, if that's just our general tendency, then to go back and change that belief that, something's wrong with me, because that's where it comes from. That's where all constant guilt is, there's something wrong with me. So no matter what I do, it's always like not good enough. What's really interesting, if I ever say it's not good enough, there's probably a person in your life that is not good enough for. And it's interesting to think, well, who is it not good enough for? And you say, well, it's not good enough for Krishna. No, there must be somebody else. Not good enough for me. No, must be someone else. And you track it down. I go, oh, I think it's not good enough for this person because this person always told me I was stupid or whatever. Maybe it's your older brother, your older sister, your cousin, your mother, your father, So sometimes it comes from there. And if you can catch it and you go, oh my God, that's where this comes from. This person always told me that. And if I can just disassociate from those thoughts and that thinking that got in there, perhaps that's all I need to solve that problem. So these are some things, you know, I don't know the particulars in your situation, but these are some or all you could do. Does that help at all?
Yeah, I think the takeaway for me is to keep the goal in mind. Then
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
unimportant things will not bother.
Yeah, like why would you want to, just because of what someone said or did, why would you want to sacrifice your life and let them sabotage you? Because then ultimately they're not the enemy, you are.
Yeah.
That's why that saying, Bhakti-siddhanta, nobody can harm you unless you harm yourself. Like, it doesn't matter what anyone does, it only matters what I tell myself. That's where the pain comes from, not what anyone else says. It's just when I believe what they say, now I'm in trouble. But if someone says, you know, you're useless, this or that, and you go like, whatever, and it just goes right over your head, it's not going to affect you. And you go, yeah, they're just angry. They say that to everybody. But if you take it seriously and personally, then you get affected.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Isn't it also interesting, like for some of us, somebody could say something negative and it has this horrible negative effect on us, and someone could say something positive and it has no effect on us and we just brush it off. Oh, you're just saying that, you know, that's like, so, you know, so when you see how the mind works and you look at it and you stand back and you go, this is not working for me. You know, you could say this, the way this mind is processing this is all conditioned response. And I don't like it, so let's change the conditioning. And for most people, they just go with the conditioning. They don't think they can change it. But, you know, and it's empowering to just know I can change it. I don't have to accept it. That in itself can be like the main factor in changing someone's life. It says, I'm like this, but I don't have to be. For some people, that's like, that changes their whole life because they thought they had to be that way. But not necessarily. I have personal experience of that, you know, and I'm always seeing, what do I have to change to go to the next level? Because I'm like this, and if I don't change it, I won't get to the next level. So I have to change some thinking or something about me, the way I respond, and then I can go to the next level. So that's the beauty of goals, because the higher they are, the better you have to be to achieve them. It causes you to grow. Because if your goals are down here, you can stay the same. If your goals are up here, there's no way I'm going to achieve that if I don't change some things inside. So then you're forced to grow. You have to grow into it. Otherwise, if you just think, no, I just need to work harder or smarter, that may be part of it, but that's not the real thing. You have to be a different person.
Yeah.
Good. Hare Krishna. Okay,
Hare
who's next?
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Mitravinda Devi, can you unmute, please? Okay.
Hi, Bob, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. So I wanted to, first of all, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I wanted to thank Mahatma
Yes.
Prabhu for coming on this. I wanted to thank Mahatma Prabhu for coming on this wonderful platform. Regarding these, you know, the pure devotees don't accept offense. They are elevated to the platform of understanding the higher aspects of relationship and who those relationships come from, and what the ultimate benefit of transcending the minimal aspects of our relationships are. For myself, authentic communication and revealing one's mind in confidence to those close to them, but also speaking in a way that doesn't allow one to become a bottle of Coca-Cola that's been shaken and that eventually explodes all over the place. I feel is beneficial for those who are not pure devotees. So in that way, how can we be better in relating to one another, while at the same time, you know, sharing authentically our feelings, which I feel even spiritually are important, and in some ways are minimized in our society. Like, we're not robots. We're not supposed to be robots. This is, my understanding is, Bhakti yoga is the yoga of emotions. and understanding God on a higher level, and aspiring to cleanse oneself for the purpose of serving, not serving for the desire to appear cleansed and continue to not behave in a way that's loving and kind, ultimately, as much as possible with authenticity to each other and living entities. Would you please help in that, Prabhu? And also, I want to say before my Wi-Fi gets disrupted, I look forward to helping transcribe your books as I did with my Guru Maharaj Bhaktitirtha Swami. Please, somehow I'd like to contact you about helping edit and transcribe them. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. So what Mitra Vidner is saying is that if we're not on a level where when we've been hurt, if we're not on a level to be able to accept it, then we'll be like a fizzy soft drink and we'll hold it in, hold it in, hold it in. And one day, it's all going to blast out in an ugly way. And we've all seen that and done that. And then how to process that. There's two things I could say about it. And one thing I don't have to say because you already beautifully said it. The other thing I would say is that when it's happening, like when I'm feeling that way, to understand what is causing me to feel that way. Now, one thing we can say is normal human emotion, it's a normal way to respond. But if you study psychology a little more deeply, there are issues that we personally have that cause us to respond in certain ways, and it's good to become aware of them. So that, like you say, when you could communicate, it's also more realistic in terms of where you're at. So let's say somebody said something to me that hurt me and it disrupted me, and I want to communicate that rather than pretending it didn't, because it did. It's healthy to understand why what that person said disrupted me from my perspective, like what's going on inside of me that this triggered me. But he said the same thing to another devotee, it didn't trigger them at all. So I'm not denying that I was triggered, and I'm not denying that I was hurt, but I also need to understand what part am I playing in this. So, for example, I have my own experience with this. I value trust very, very highly, and I was betrayed by somebody. That same person betrayed a lot of other devotees, and they weren't upset about it. Actually, they were happy that he betrayed them because they never had to deal with them again. They're like, good riddance. We're gonna have to see you again and deal with you, because dealing with you was the headache. But for me, betrayal was like a big thing. And it's because I was betrayed in the past and hurt by it. So I was very sensitive to it. So when I was betrayed by this person, I developed strong resentment towards them. And it took me many years to own that and understand that that's where my resentment came from. So I think that if we're going to have healthy communication, there has to be some ability to understand our own processes and where we need to heal. Otherwise, I'll just blame that person. It's all your fault because you betrayed me and that's why I'm angry. Which is externally on the surface true. That is why I'm angry, because you did betray me. But it's much deeper than that, because betrayal is a sensitive issue to me because I've been betrayed before and I'm overly sensitive to it or almost traumatized by it. So I think that needs to be part of the discussion. And I would also say that it's not that we should shy away from the fact that we could eventually get up there where Parikshit Maharaj try to get there. It's just, your point is well taken, that when we're not there, don't pretend that we are, and let that person know that what you did was hurtful and I'm affected by it. And we need to talk about it, because a lot of that talking about it can be healing. And of course, if it's going to be Guyam, confidential, that has to be a person who you trust. And sometimes the person who hurt you, you don't trust them and you can't and it's more difficult to be confidential. And they could even blame you for trying to be open about, being hurt, and they could blame you for being hurt. I didn't do anything wrong. So it's a little bit complicated. I don't want to minimize what you say because I agree with everything you said. I've in studying forgiveness, I've had to learn a lot of the processes that cause us to be resentful and how certain things become triggered in us. And it's been very helpful in the future. Once I learned what my triggers were and why they were and healed them, then I would become less disturbed by things that used to disturb me. So I just wanted to add that to the mix, what we need to be doing. And I just gave a self-care workshop, and one of the things that we talk about in that is the need for honesty, and how many of us are afraid to be ourselves because we don't want to be seen as we are. We're afraid we'll be criticized or judged, which is one of the most unfortunate things that I think exists within our movement, where it exists. And that many devotees said that I cannot be honest with people, with leaders, especially if they have issues, because I will be chastised and judged. And so to accomplish what you're saying, Mitravinda, we have to create the culture. It's quite easy if the culture exists, but if it doesn't, it could backfire, unfortunately. So that's a real concern for me as a person who travels around Iskcon and seeing so many devotees saying, I cannot be honest because I will be judged. And I don't have the strength to deal with that kind of criticism, to be judged just for being who I am. So that's a real problem. It's like, like you say, we need communication, but we have to be careful who we're communicating with and how they take it. Because as I'm sure all of us have experienced, that communication to the wrong person can backfire.
Yes.
And make things worse, unfortunate.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such an honest approach to Mitravinda's question. Srimad Bhagavatam Prabhu, please, you may unmute. I think everybody can attest that at least once in our lives as devotees, we've had such experience. So
Unfortunate. What I would like to say is that I think this is one of the biggest problems in our movement. We can say, people are focused on this and that, and there are real problems in Iskcon, but I think this one is much bigger than people realize. Yeah. And it's the cause of many devotees leaving. It's the cause of many devotees not realizing that other people are also struggling, and that struggle is normal, and that human frailties are normal, and that we all are not perfect. That there's huge numbers of devotees who are thinking that other devotees don't have the problems they have, because there's not a place to talk about it, and there's a lot of pretension goes on because they want to look good to be accepted. And that's really, really sad. If we create an organization that creates that culture, it's actually, in a sense, can make some people worse off as devotees, because then it kind of forces you into a situation when you have to pretend. Whereas, that happens in the material world, but if you are not perfect in the material world, no one's expecting it, because nobody is. But in religious societies, it's expected more, which is why this problem is created. So if you all can do anything to create more openness and honesty yourself, I think that goes a long way for helping other people be honest. Because when you're ready to admit your faults, it makes it easier for others. And we haven't developed that culture where we see leaders in the public eye saying, this is my fault. Prabhupada did it all the time. It's not noticed, but he did it. And it goes a long way when a leader's ready to admit a mistake. Then others feel like, okay. It's what we're supposed to do. Hare Krishna. All right.
So thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam Prabhu, please unmute.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dhanyavad Pradam, Prabhu.
Is it possible to
Krishna.
turn on your video, please? Is it possible? If not possible, you can forget about it. But if it is, wonderful.
There he is.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. My obeisances to all the devotees. Prabhuji, I'm just meditating on 2 points. One is acceptance of negative situation, like Mahārāja Parīkṣit did, and this world as a miserable place. So those are the 2 things I'm meditating on. And one is I'm trying to see how do we respond when people criticize us, devotees, as escapists? Because here we say that the world is miserable and we want to go back to God. But there are people out there who are thinking of how to make things better, maybe quote unquote, but they're trying their best to make the world a better place. And from that, we, the devotees, we are benefiting from those kind of activities. We are benefiting from inventions. In fact, if I can just quote you, in one of your responses, you were just telling that Mataji Sangita that she should take advantage of digital sangha. So these things are there, which are the brainwork of many people who are trying to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
So, but we, the devotees, what are we actually doing to make the world a better place? It's like, they say we're escapists. You're running away from everything. And what are your contributions? What are you doing? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Are we just like trying to run to Vaikuntha? But meanwhile, we're profiting from the hard work, honest contribution, and invention of others. So I'm doing this introspection, and I'm trying to see, can devotees do better than just saying the world is a miserable place? Even in trying to organize a society and have a model, we are a failure, excuse me to say. So at what point do we make our words, live up to our words and walk our talk and not just feel like escapists as they call us? Well, this is my trouble. Maybe you can help me out. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that question. Prabhupada was asked this question quite regularly by reporters. Like, that? Like, what are you doing to make the world better? It's a common question. And I think it sounds like you're asking that question both from the angle of vision of how we would explain that to the public and also how we explain that to ourselves. Like, what is our rationalization? One answer that I really liked that Prabhupada gave that made a lot of sense to me was people would say, you're devotees, there's no doctors, there's no lawyers. This was, when we're all brahmacharis, like nobody's contributing to the world. And Prabhupada he would say, well, there are many doctors, lawyers, and so forth in the world. So if we add to it, it's not that it's going to make much of a difference in general. In some specific situation, perhaps, but in general, no. So what he would try to focus on was that we have a specific contribution to society in the field of knowledge. And I don't know if you remember that conversation, but Prabhupada was in Chicago, and when he arrived in Chicago, they showed Prabhupada some headlines from a newspaper, which was something like drugs and what to do. And so Prabhupada used that as a theme, and he was speaking to government officials and like that. And he would say, if you send people to us, we can solve the drug problem. It was one example. The Prabhupada would often say, his point was that Krishna consciousness can solve a lot of problems that society is unable to solve because it upgrades the character of people. Do you know what I heard yesterday? Oh my God, this is insane. In the United States, in 2021, there were 690 mass shootings. That's like two public shootings every day on average. Just someone going out to a school, to a mall, to a nightclub and killing people. And mass shooting means 4 or more people who are killed. So these are the kinds of things that Prabhupada would address, that if people become Krishna conscious, this problem would be solved. People would become nonviolent. The problem of addiction would be solved, this and that. Of course, we as devotees might say, well, even amongst devotees, we have problems. But in those areas, we don't have much problem. The areas of abortion, meat eating, violence, the devotee community, they're quite rare. So that was the perspective Prabhupada would take. He would try to isolate and say, it's not that we don't care, but our specific mission is to give knowledge, to develop character, to help people evolve spiritually. At the same time, he would say, but we do feed people, so that's there. You know, we are, when we can, we do such things. And it's a matter of communicating. What I took it from what Prabhupada said would be something like, if you went to the president of Harvard or the chairman, whatever they call, or any big city, you know you should be feeding and clothing the poor. What would he say? He said, well, that was not the purpose of Harvard. He said, what are you actually doing for society? You're just sitting here teaching people. How was that going to change anything? Now, nobody would say that, because we all know that through education, you know, like you're saying, we have all these inventions and we benefit from them. That's all coming from education. So nobody would levy that. I don't think they would levy that against most established religions. You're not doing anything. No, it's an educational institution. There's another thing. This is a little more esoteric, and I don't know if it'll satisfy your question, but Prabhupada once said that anything that is used in devotional service benefits the person or company who made that product. So, for example,
Hare Krishna.
so like if you drive a Ford, then Henry Ford or the Ford family is benefited because it's used in devotional service, you know, like whatever it is, whatever kind of car we're using for Sankirtan. So Prabhupada saw a connection of benefit that we weren't seeing. One time, Prabhupada said there will be World War III. This was 1975, he said it. And of course, it didn't happen. Or well, of course, it's kind of happening now, or maybe it's always been happening. It's just not on the scale we thought. But anyway, we didn't see what we thought would be World War III, nuclear war, and so forth. And they asked Prabhupada why, and he said, because of your book distribution, Krishna changed his mind. So this is very subtle. We don't see this. And Prabhupada was saying, the Sankirtan movement held back this tide, which was destined to happen. They're building up nuclear weapons. And politically, it's destined that this would, you know, Prabhupada said, you have enough weapons, eventually you're going to use them. So, and then Prabhupada said it didn't happen. And then another devotee said, Harisari said, Prabhupada, that there's so many vegetarians in the world today. There's so many people practicing yoga. Do we have anything to do with that? And Prabhupada said, yes, our Sankirtan movement has influenced the atmosphere. So as devotees, we need to see these things, and then we need to be able to explain these things to the public, although it's more difficult to explain to the public because they may not always see things this way. We understand karmic consequences of action. If we're involved in politics, it won't just be on an external level, but we would aim to pass laws that would stop karmic reactions at the ground, the root level, where people don't understand this is causing this and causing that. So as far as helping people on the physical level, on other levels, we can do that. And we do that, especially in India. It's not our main action, but at the same time, if let's say you wanted to go to the villages of Africa and the people were very poor, and you thought, if we help them and build them homes and educate them and build schools, we can teach them Krishna consciousness and we'll take care of them and we'll arrange for them to be educated so they can make a good living and so forth. That would also be a viable and valid way to spread Krishna consciousness. So both things are going on simultaneously. You're taking care of their material needs, which if you don't take care, they'll be too absorbed in just figuring out how to live and they won't have time for spiritual life. So that could be there. And the last thing I would say is, if there was a point in time when we were actually able to establish some kind of social structure, like let's say in one of your countries in Africa, one of the presidents or prime ministers says, I like you guys, I want you to be the cabinet. Let's just make this a prototype country. Then all of a sudden, all the social needs of the people become your concern because this is your job now. So if you look at the Brahmins, they have social concerns. They always have, because they're guiding the Kshatriyas, and it's the Kshatriya's duty to make sure that all the citizens are happy, no one's hungry, and so on and so forth. It's just that at this point in Iskcon, that really wasn't Prabhupada's mission. But if you look at it from a social perspective, from a Varnashram perspective, and see what Prabhupada was saying, he would always talk about people suffering for lack of food, for lack of good government, being cheated, this and that. So he was socially active in theory, but his first act of social revolution was to create Brahmins. So you don't see that whole social structure. But if you look at his talks on Varnashram, it's all about that. And if you look at his talks about what are the concerns of a king, the concerns of a king, everyone's employed, everyone is well fed, everyone is happy, like all these other concerns. So that's my understanding. I may not have the complete picture, but that's my meditation on this topic. I'm sure there's more that could be added to this, but that's some general ideas just for now. So I hope that's something helpful. And maybe you want to say something else in response.
Well, thank you so much. Maharaja, please. Okay, go ahead.
I'm driving right now. I'm driving my bus.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. If I have time, I can ask questions.
okay. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you.
The devotee who asked the question, Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhuji, he does food for life
Yes.
almost every day
Yes.
in his country, Togo. He does food for life every day. He feeds so many people.
Wonderful.
And also gives them the Krishna consciousness. So
Wonderful.
he's known everywhere in the country. So I think that is also a gateway of helping these people. If we ourselves are not building automobiles, maybe these people feeding on Mahaprasadam will grow and have the developed intelligence to develop these automobiles. So doing something.
You know how the Christians, took over economically by offering people economic incentives to become Christians.
Mhm.
You know, and offering jobs and so forth. So it's not exactly Prabhupada wanted us to do that, but at the same time, it's not that we couldn't go into a village and say, okay, we will help this village and we will educate you and we will feed you and clothe you. And that wouldn't be against our principles.
Yeah.
Because Prabhupada did say that if people are starving, how can they think about spiritual life? That has to be taken care of. And Prabhupada was very concerned that people were being cheated and that food shortage was just a myth, that it's just politics and capitalism that's creating these shortages. And that, obviously the world should be working together to feed, that no one should be hungry and starving, and that's all due to politics mismanagement. So he was, he had his mind on these things. It's just that he didn't specifically tell us but he was kind of like saying, whenever it is that you're in politics, then you can bring this to the table.
Yeah.
Do you
Well,
know
Yeah.
that Tulsi Gabbard ran for president of the United States? If she won that election, there would not be a war in Ukraine right now. She knew how to prevent it. She would have
Yes,
prevented it.
she absolutely did. Yes.
Yeah. So that would, so things like that, that's a great service that could have been done. And anyway, it's a big topic.
Yeah, we were actually discussing topics along this line a few days ago on this platform. And
Mhm.
specifically, we mentioned Tulsi Gabbard's name.
But
Because of her sincerity, now he got some backlashes from her own
yeah, of
party.
course.
That's the
It's
problem.
always going to be there in politics. But I think what's most interesting to this discussion is if you go through Prabhupada's books and you see Prabhupada talking about the welfare of people in general, apart from just the spiritual welfare, but the material welfare, he definitely talks about it a lot. And it is the Brahminical, the concern of the Brahmins that materially people are not cheated, people are not exploited, people are well taken care of, people are materially happy. It's just that we, as a developing movement, we didn't, the focus was just first we have to educate people spiritually. The focus wasn't to go broad, but I think it's obviously in Prabhupada's plan that we would do that, because otherwise, why is he talking about it all the time? People are being cheated. This has to be stopped. Politicians have to be exposed, etc. We need real leaders. We need devotees in government, So these were his concerns. It's a question of how we're going to manifest it. It's not that we don't care.
Yeah.
At the same time, you don't want to give a poor person $5 so he can go to McDonald's, because that's not what we want to encourage.
Well,
all right.
Yes, thank you so much. If I may ask one question, Prabhuji, which is slightly a diversion from what we are discussing, but it's actually from the purport that Sri Prabhupada
Okay,
gave.
okay.
So I'll put it up here. Okay, so this is what we discussed. And here, Sri Prabhupada was saying, in regards to Mahārāja Parīkṣit, that when a great devotee of the Lord passes away, there is nothing to be lamented, because the devotee is destined to enter into the kingdom of God. And my stress is a great devotee.
What about everybody else?
What about everybody else? Exactly.
You're all great devotees. You don't have to worry. You're all great devotees. Well, I can give you my answer for this. It's quite simple.
Okay.
I mean, I can tell you how I feel about it personally. That I was not born a devotee. I did many things growing up that devotees don't do. Samskars are there, and other life samskars, and whether I was a devotee in another life or not, I had 19 years of not being a devotee, and then I took shelter of Srila Prabhupada with faith. And Prabhupada gave me instructions and said, as he gave to all of us, chant your rounds, follow these principles, do your best to spread Krishna consciousness, and I will take you back to Godhead. So with that faith, despite our disqualifications, with that faith, we execute Prabhupada's instructions, and we don't even worry about it anymore, because we know that he will take care of us despite all our lackings, disqualifications, past, and so forth. And sometimes when we get back up, we take care of his instruction, and we try to spread the mission that he wanted us to spread, and we try to help him and with full faith that now I'm in his hands. So back to Godhead, not back to Godhead, heaven, hell, wherever, I'm in good hands, and he will take me where he wants me, and I don't even have to worry about it. But having said that, Prabhupada said many, many times, I will take you back to Godhead. So therefore, I could adjust my statement and say, we should all know for sure if we follow Prabhupada, we will go back to Godhead. We don't have to worry about it. And so you no longer have to worry about whether or not you're going back to Godhead. You just have to worry about following Prabhupada. And that will be taken care of. It's like you get a job. You don't have to worry about whether you're going to get paid at the end of the month. Well, in most companies, hopefully, you're not working for a weird company that's going to not pay you. So, you work, you dedicate yourself, and you will be taken care of.
Yeah.
So we have that faith in Prabhupada. We're all, we all know that we were not born in Brahmin families from a tradition of, our great grandparents, Brahmins coming down, and no one in our whole family has ever committed a sin in hundreds of generations. We're not coming from that. And Prabhupada was picking us up. You all know when Prabhupada asked the devotees to go to Africa, and then all these Indians are coming to the program. He said, where are the African people? I came to speak to the African people, the Chinese people, all these people. And then you go to the Shastra, and it gives a list of all these classes of people that are considered outcasts, which is baseless. So Prabhupada is speaking to that list of outcasts, and the Bhagavatam says even these people can become Krishna conscious. So Prabhupada had no doubt that we could become Krishna conscious if we followed this process. So why should we have a doubt? And then he promised, you can go back to Godhead. So, okay, I'll take that promise. I'll run with it, and I'll dedicate my life to Srila Prabhupada doing what he wants, and then in confidence that I'll get the paycheck at the end of the month.
Yes.
Of course, even if Prabhupada didn't deliver the paycheck, we'd be happy to serve him. But
Definitely.
the paycheck is, take me wherever you want me to go. If you want me to go somewhere else and preach, but Prabhupada never really said that. He always said, you will go back to God in this lifetime. So I think we should all have that faith, and we all need not worry. And that shouldn't even be in our minds, as long as we follow, And like your spiritual master initiated you to take you back to Godhead. He didn't initiate you for you to stick around here another 100 lifetimes. And he is confident that if he connects you to Prabhupada, Prabhupada will deliver you. Right? But who am I? It's like, am I such a great devotee? I can deliver the world. Prabhupada can deliver the world, and I can help him. One time, a devotee said, Prabhupada, I want to preach. And Prabhupada said, who said you know how to preach? He said, I preach and you help. So that's our, we're helping Prabhupada preach. So he will deliver all of us, and we will bring people to him. Even though we might initiate people, we will bring people to him, and he will deliver them. And we will make sure that our disciples are connected with Prabhupada, and that we will deliver what Prabhupada delivered to us. And then we got nothing to worry about.
Yeah, thank you so much. So what I'm learning from my question, the answer you gave is we should be more concerned about how to follow the instructions
exactly.
Prabhupada gave us,
Exactly.
like whether we will be able to go back home or not. That assurance Prabhupada has given. So
not even a concern. Not
yes.
even a concern.
No.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. So, dear devotees, I don't know if anyone has something else to say, because it seems Prabhuji has been here for more than 90 minutes. If it were a soccer game, it would be over by now. So, but if I may say something, I remember you said something that reminded me of something my great Bhaktivedanta Maharaj said some time ago. It was in the 90s when this issue of gurus not sitting in Vyasasana came about. And I remember I was fanning him. He was in his Vyasasana chanting Jarada Madhava, and I was fanning him. He gave class, and after the class, I'm always asking questions. So I asked him this question, that we heard from another guru that gurus should not sit in the Vyasasana, and then but you are sitting in the Vyasa. And his answer to me and to the entire devotees was that one can sit on the pillow and remain sinful. And one can sit in the asana and not be sinful. So where you sit is not the problem. And when the guru initiates or when the guru receives offering from the disciples, he is passing them on to his guru. So just like you said, we are fortunate we are getting you, your God brothers, God sisters, connecting us, accepting us disciples. You are our gurus, but you are also offering us to Srila Prabhupada. Just as I believe Srila Prabhupada was, I don't want to play that tape that much because I don't want to hear Srila Prabhupada cry. But Srila Prabhupada was like sobbing when he was saying that all of you are helping him to serve his guru.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we are very blessed. Thank you so much. Sati, do you have something to ask or say? Please, you may unmute before Prabhu says goodbye to us for now. Please unmute.
We had a question. What's first, spiritual or material? And first, we help people spiritually. That's primary, always, yeah. Okay, Sati, you want to say something? Hit the little microphone on your phone.
Sorry.
Yeah,
The one Mataji you spoke in the beginning, I didn't catch her name, but she was in the medical school. I just wanted to share that.
Oh, Sangeeta.
Sangeeta. Okay, I wanted to maybe connect
She
with her.
left. She's no more here. I saw your message. I tried to forward it to her, but she's not in the Sangha at the moment. But if somebody knows her, maybe one may do that Sati says she can reach out to her, and she gave her number.
let's hear what you would tell her.
This because my husband just got over cancer, and I was with him for like his main caretaker. And there was many times we weren't in association devotees, and mostly in the hospital. And I did 6 hours of Zoom classes a day, actually, and did a lot of just like home prayers to my deities and chanting on my own and reading to my husband. So I just have experience with something similar, I guess somehow similar to that, having to be in a tough situation, not have devotees around, but just reaching out and making sure that I still had the sangha I needed. So I just wanted to share with her that I have so many links to Zoom lectures that I was doing so many, and connections to, I was connected with Mother Nidra in Denver because I used to live there and take care of her. So I have a very close connection with her. So she's actually probably the main reason that I survived through all that, because she helped me so much through that. So I could definitely put her in contact with people who can help her. That's all I wanted to share.
Yeah. All
Thank
glories
you.
to Zoom. Yeah. Very good point.
Probably, I don't know if you have a
Hare
minute
Krishna.
to spare. Sorry, if you have a minute to spare, it seems Govinda Prabhu has something to ask, but Nishima Chaitanya also has something to ask. If you have a few minutes to spare.
Hey, make it quick.
I wanted to reply to Sati that
Oh, okay.
before Sangeeta left, I messaged her and I gave her my number, and then she said she'll call me afterwards. So when she does, I would share the number with Sati.
Great.
Okay, thank you. I gave her my number also, so we'll see.
Great.
Yeah, thank you. Govinda Prabhu, yeah, please unmute.
Hare Krishna, devotees. My obeisances to you all. And thank you very much, Mahatma Prabhu. My question is about Parikshit Maharaj faces death, his mood of facing death. It became so that the sages from everywhere came to see Parikshit Maharaj and also to listen to the Bhagavatam. And understand the sages were kind of shocked for the decision that the Parikshit Maharaj took to meet his death. So my question is that why were the sages shocked after hearing that he took a decision for dying in 7 days? It was very obvious that if a smoker sees his fellow smoker smoking, I mean, it's normal to him. If a dancer sees his fellow dancer dancing, it's very normal. And so devotees coming together to hear Bhagavatam class, it's normal. I will not be shocked to see Sadhu Prabhu hearing Bhagavatam, or Salika Prabhu hearing, or any devotee hearing Bhagavatam. Why should I be so shocked to hear him, hearing Bhagavatam? Because I know it's a normal thing for a devotee to be hearing Bhagavatam. And it's a normal for a devotee who is about to die to hear about Krishna. If that devotee is that devoted, is to hear about Krishna and then pass on. That's what Krishna says, think of me, even at the point of death. So why were the sages shocked after hearing that Parikshit Maharaj has taken this decision of dying in 7 days? Why were they shocked?
Because it's not normal for a king to renounce like that so quickly. And so, like we were saying, he could have counteracted the curse. He didn't have to accept the curse. He could have just said, curse is counteracted. I remain king. I go on. So that would be considered normal. No one would even have a problem with that. They would say, oh yeah, that was the right thing to do. The fact that he didn't do it, he didn't retaliate, and he exhibited this extreme renunciation that I will accept the curse and then I will fast and I will just hear Bhagavatam and I won't sleep. That itself is, that in itself is pretty special just for any devotee who could counteract a curse and just go, no, I'm just going to fast till death. It's like, let's say somebody gets cancer and it's stage 1 and they just say, I'll just die. I'll just fast and die in 40 days. We would say, whoa, you don't want to fight it? No. So we would appreciate it. But the fact that he's a king makes it even more special. It's like, what if George Harrison became a devotee? So many people became a devotee, but if he became a devotee, we wouldn't say, oh, just another Prabhu. We would say, oh my God, one of the most famous and wealthiest people in the world became a devotee. That's a big thing because there was so much to give up. So Parikshit Maharaj is a king, so much to give up. And that's why the Shastra says he gave it all up like it was passing stool because of his renunciation. So that's the way I understand it, that it was so special coming from a person of that status. I always, when I became a devotee, I always thought I had nothing to give up. I was 19. I had my one guitar and 30 albums and 3 books and, 3 pairs of clothes, basically. And when I heard that George Harrison was becoming Krishna conscious, I was thinking, oh my God, he's giving up so much. He's putting his, even his whole reputation online. He was ready to move in the temple. That's special. That's my understanding. Is that okay? Or you have some other idea?
Well, I was concerned because Parikshit was such a great devotee, somebody who could just have been counteracted this curse in a second. Means he was that elevated. And even though he was a king, by being that elevated devotee, naturally he's not attached. He's not attached to anything in his kingdom.
You know what
and
it is?
Yeah.
Well, it's like when Prabhupada, in his last days, he was translating like that. It's like we already know Prabhupada's exalted. And so in one sense you could say, But what was the big deal? Prabhupada was translating at the time of death. He was transcendental. He could do it. But the fact that they manifest it, that's what's amazing. It's like, it's no longer a theory. Now you get to see this devotee actually doing it. Like, this is incredible renunciation, you know. That, you know, you're seeing it in action. It's not a theory going, oh, he's a pure devotee, but you're actually like, wow, he's actually doing it. He's walking the talk. That's what I think is happening. Just like with Prabhupada at the end of his life. It's like, wow, he was so, you know, him translating to on his deathbed. That's like, wow. That's like a wow moment of wow. You know, it's one of the top wow moments of Prabhupada's life.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Okay,
Thank
can
you,
I go
thank
now?
you. Yeah.
Do I-
Yeah.
Otherwise, I have to charge you overtime.
Yeah.
Send you the bill. You all get a bill in the mail.
We'll be happy to receive the bill, Prabhuji.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you all for coming.
Dear devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute, and then we chant the loudest Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation to His Grace Mahatma Prabhu for spending this much time and giving us this knowledge to all of us. Yay! Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
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 Hare
Hare Hare,
Hare
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama Rama, Hare
Vancha
Vancha
kalpatarubhyascha,
Krishna Namo.
Haribo.
Jai.
Jai. Jai.
Haribo.